Right. I'm curious about CIT, Warren. A lot of talk about that. As you know, it impacts so many different small to mid-sized business owners across this country. The government made a decision. They decided not to step in, and there have been reports that you've been interested in some of their financing units. Why would you be interested, and how crucial is it that we address this issue, particularly since that factoring business is so crucial to so many industries across the country?
Yeah. Well, I'm not on the inside on it, but I would think that factoring business will be, I'm sure it will be continued by somebody else. I mean, it serves a business function. Now, the problem with CIT is that their raw material, which is money, costs them far, far, far more than their competitors. So the banks have access to money at average rates that are really very tiny now, and CIT's money costs them way more. And if you're the high-cost producer in a business, you know, eventually it catches up with you, and basically that business has to be transferred to somebody who has low funding costs. Now, CIT would like to get those low funding costs, and God bless them if they can get them. But if they can't, and they haven't been able to so far, then that business has to go to somebody that has low funding costs. It isn't like the loans won't get made, but they're going to get made by somebody who's getting their money currently at 1% instead of CIT, which has trouble getting it in. Well, on that interim deal they made the other day, they paid 13% plus a minimum of 13 plus a lot of fees. You can't compete in the money business paying 13% for money today. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's not a successful business model. So one way or another, things have to get reconstituted there.
You mentioned at the outset there that somebody else will pick up the...
Excuse me just a minute. Maybe they should watch our show, The Secret Millionaires Club. For a little advice on that. You can't pay loan shark rates and compete with people that are getting their money on a government guaranteed basis for practically nothing.
Yeah, and then give $30 billion of unencumbered assets as collateral to a $3 billion loan, a whole other issue. But look, Warren, there's a lot of talk right now, though, with CIT that once they get through this next cash tender on $1 billion of debt due, that perhaps the company might have to go into a prepackaged Chapter 11 type restructuring. There are some healthy businesses in there, and aside from the funding issue, as you rightly point out, some of those businesses could do very well under the right circumstances. Would you have any interest in some of those businesses once they get through this process?
It's conceivable. The real owner of those businesses ought to be somebody that essentially gets government guaranteed funding, which a bank, with the FDIC behind it is essentially getting government guaranteed funding, and we can't touch those funding costs ourselves. So the weakest bank in the United States has lower funding costs than Berkshire Hathaway, as long as it's insured by the FDIC. Those businesses have to go someplace where the funding costs are the lowest, and that's likely to be the banking system. But you're right. The problem with CIT is the liability side, not overwhelmingly the asset side. They've got some problems on the asset side, but the problem is that their money costs them too much, and it's going to keep costing them too much, and you just have to get those assets placed someplace where the funding costs will be low.
One thing, Warren, we've been talking about all morning long is whether or not we could have a jobless recovery. Where the economy stands today, particularly those that are underemployed, what is your view of the current state of the economy, and could we have a jobless recovery, or are we headed toward a second stimulus package?
Well, initially you will have. I mean, the recovery will start before the jobs start coming back. But that's the nature of every recession. People are slow to let people go, and they're slow to rehire them. They're going to have to see more than one or two robins before they're convinced it's spring. But if we have a real recovery, jobs will follow. But the key word there is follow. They won't be simultaneous. It won't be a simultaneous phenomenon. So I would not worry about an extended recovery that would be jobless, but initially it will look like it's a jobless recovery.
So just finally, Warren, in a 9-inning ball game, which inning of the ball game are we in the recovery?
I can't time stocks. I can't time the economy. The one thing I can promise you is that the movie we're watching in the economy has a happy ending. I just don't know how long the movie will be.
All right. Well, Warren Buffett, we appreciate you very much taking the time with us. And the Secret Millionaires Club, scheduled to debut this fall on AOL. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.